Hello everyone, my name is Sonono. I'm a permaculture designer. I started studying permaculture in 2020 and I also started practicing it from when I graduated. I did my studies at Fambitsanai Permaculture Center based in Harare, Zimbabwe, and then I also completed a permaculture course with Permaculture Research Institute. It was taught by Geoff Lawton. So I currently work at Food Forest Abundance as a permaculture designer. Today I'm going to share with you some of the practices that I've already implemented, some of the practices that I'm personally doing. These include rainwater harvesting, chicken management, and fodder system. Then you have liquid manure, natural fertilizer from chicken manure. There's also clay pot irrigation system, and then also the plants that I've actually planted and the management of the gardens. Then I'm also going to be sharing with you garden bed preparations and mulching, companion planting as well. So this is more like a food forest story. Throughout this presentation of my food forest, you are going to pick up general skills in areas that are going to help you create your own food forest. So the first question that you might be having in your head, what is permaculture? Permaculture is all about creating natural systems that mimic nature for our benefit and also regenerating the environment. So permaculture applies holistic solutions pertinent in both rural areas and urban areas. And it focuses on a huge variety of topics. These include rainwater harvesting, agriculture, and then animal systems, which I'm mainly going to be focusing on today. So where I live and the climate over here, I live in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. It's hot semi-arid climate. Here we receive precipitation below potential evapotranspiration, but not as low as the desert climate. So usually we have the northeast monsoons that blow during the summer and bring a lot of rainfall from the northern parts of Zimbabwe. And then the prevailing winds, they're usually from the southwest. Around June and July, those are the coldest months of the year. And at this time, there are some light frosts. Temperatures may drop up to about maybe -2 degrees Celsius. And then from mid-August, the temperatures start to rise and they reach its peak around October. Therefore, September and November are the least pleasant months, really. And then our average temperatures, they usually range from around 19 degrees Celsius up to about maybe 25 degrees Celsius in the daytime. So why did I start this? My objectives. I wanted to create a natural system that is going to produce an abundance of organic food. And then I also wanted to keep and multiply chickens. And then I also wanted to be actually able to produce food for the chickens within the system. I wanted to create a sustainable system whereby everything is coming from within the system. So with permaculture, I've actually found a way to have a system with all those connections. A system that actually gives you synergism. There's nothing that goes to waste. So I can also say that ultimately I wanted to achieve food security and sovereignty. In my site, my main challenges basically this area is it's a rocky area, especially in the places where I intend to do my gardening, the places that I'm intending to turn into productive gardens. But those rocks are going to be used to actually prepare the garden beds for my garden. My other challenge, main challenge, I've limited access to water, which has actually led me to rainwater harvesting projects. And then this I always find is an opportunity. This land here it's a virgin land. It was a virgin land before I actually started my practices, meaning that no farming had ever been done before. So the soil, it'll be fertile. So before we get on with the management of chickens and rainwater harvesting and all those other topics, I'm just going to briefly go through the design. My design was to address rainwater harvesting from the roof into storage tanks, and also harvesting some water from the road into trenches that will take the water into swells where I would have planted my trees. This would be good for the trees because that water will actually soak in and it will infiltrate. So the trees will always have water. So I want to circulate the water within the system. I'm actually making use of all the water that I'm collecting. And then my design should also enable me to harvest manure from the chickens. Manure that I'm going to use to make liquid manure that I'm going to water my plants with. And then of course, I want my system to be able to grow food for my chickens, you know, and also fodder system. Fodder it's a type of feed for chickens. We're going to get into that. And then basically I want to create a no waste cycle. I want to actually make food compost, and that will give me some worms that are going to help build my soil. So the elements that I've already implemented, I have a spiral bed. In this spiral bed, I've planted herbs and vegetables. These herbs and vegetables, I actually did some companion planting. So the spiral beds, they're actually helpful because they create more space for you to plant in a small area. And then I would like to get into the preparation of these spiral beds. So first of all, you have to mark out your area where you're going to create your beds. You can do this by taking a stick and then you actually mark on the ground, and then you follow it with the rocks. Well, for me, I was using rocks to make my beds. So you then place your rocks along your lines. Then I like to put some cardboard boxes underneath before I put any soil, because these cardboard boxes, they're going to make sure that weeds don't grow. Because in this system, it's a no-dig system. I'm not actually digging to make a bed, I'm making raised beds. So these boxes, what they do, their purpose, they stop weeds from growing. For any plant to grow, it needs sunlight. So when you put those cardboard boxes, you're blocking the sunlight from going in. So the weeds are eventually going to die. And then with time, those cardboard boxes are also going to degrade, and then they are going to give you carbon. So you're constantly building your soil. So after the boxes, you then put your compost or your rich soil, and then you plant your things on top of the soil. So for me previously, my compost, where I actually got it from, I had cut some tall grass just outside my yard, and then I just put it and made a heap, and then over time it broke down and became compost, a very rich compost. So it's important to mulch after you plant anything, because mulch actually has a lot of benefits for you, for your plants, for your soil. Mulch protects the soil from even direct sunlight. Then when it rains or when you water your garden, that mulch holds on to a lot of water. So mulch is actually needed. And then with time, that mulch breaks down. And then it's organic matter. It's building soil for you. And then the companion planting. My plants that I put, I had comfrey, I had marigold. For my herbs, I had mint, I had chive onions as well. So my comfrey is a nitrogen fixer. So I've used it for companion planting in various areas of my garden. And then marigold is a pest repeller. It also attracts bees and other pollinators. So it's also something that I've used for companion planting in my garden. And then mint. Your mint attracts beneficial insects to the garden. And then the vegetables that I had spinach, I had squash, well, pumpkin mainly. And then I also had maize. Maize was actually intercropped with sunflower. This is for my chickens. There's also clay pot irrigation system that I had tried out, and so far it has worked fine. So for the clay pot irrigation, I was using pure clay, like no ceramic. So the preparation, you you basically have to dig a hole where a clay pot can actually fit inside, and then before you actually put it inside, you have to somehow seal your clay pot so that it doesn't lose any water. So how I was actually doing that, first I put concrete underneath there, and then after that I put a rain seal. There's a rain seal that I bought. I put it on top, and then I let it cure for about 3 days. And then to finish it off, I made some galvanized sheets, and then basically I used those to close the clay pot after pouring water inside. So this is to avoid evaporation, losing water through evaporation. So now, how does the water actually go to the plants? So when you put your clay pot on the ground there, the roots, they actually somehow siphon the water from within the clay pot. This is made out of clay, remember, so water can easily pass through those tiny pores. And then when the plants are now fully hydrated, the soil gets saturated, and then water stops seeping out. So the clay pot irrigation system has been very helpful, because I've actually been able to save a lot of water from that. And then, as I mentioned before, one of my major challenges was it's water. I have limited access to water, so that's why I started focusing on rainwater harvesting projects. So what I've done so far, I've put some gutters around the house, and then I'm yet to add some shade cloth on the gutters to function as a filter, blocking bird poop and other large dirty things that can actually flow with the water. So on one end, I've connected the gutter to a tank, which is about 2,500 liters. I neutralize this water by hanging a bag of limestone in the water tank, and then I have an underground water tank that I just recently dug. I'm still yet to build it. It's going to be able to hold about 70,000 liters of water. So in the next rainy season, I'm really hoping that I would have finished this project so that I can be able to harvest a lot of water. So when I've actually built this underground tank, I want to do underground piping that is going to be connected from the gutters, directly from the gutters, underground piping going to lift the water in the underground tank. And then just like how I've done it on my tanks, there's a water outlet at the top of the tank. So I'm yet to put piping there that is going to move the water that will be coming from the tank into another tank. So ultimately I'll be having 2 water tanks full of water. So how I'm going to harvest the water from the road, I'm going to make trenches, connect trenches like from the road into my yard. And then these trenches will be taking the water into like swell systems. These swell systems will be having trees, and then I'm going to add some organic materials there, so that those nutrients get diluted, and then the trees can actually flourish. That was it about the rainwater harvesting projects that I'm doing. Now I'm going to get into the management of natural chickens. So in a natural chicken system, you need to make sure that your temperatures and your bedding and your ventilation, they're all balanced, because they work hand in hand. If it gets too cold, your chickens are going to feel cold. Then they're not going to eat, and they're not going to perform for you. If you don't have good ventilation, you're going to actually breed bacteria on your bedding. So it's paramount that your ventilation is done properly. And then as for for my bedding, I like to put a thick layer for about maybe 20 centimeters of grass. With time, that grass is going to actually break down, and then you're going to get a very rich manure that you'll be able to use, either to make liquid manure or to just directly add on your garden beds. You can actually use it to double dig a garden bed. By double digging, what I mean is you really dig deep, going deep on the ground for where you intend to have a garden bed. And then when you get to your subsoil, you add some organic matter, even some compost if you have, or some manure, and then you put back the soil. So automatically that's going to be a raised bed, and that garden bed is going to really create some good soil for the plants that you're going to put there, to plant there. So for me, I was intending to actually multiply my chicken system. So I had to build some nests for where my chickens can lay eggs. These nests had to be they have to be in a safe area, where a chicken can actually feel safe and want to have some chicks, you know. So those are some of the ideas of how you can get a chicken to be broody. You just need to create a natural environment for it so that it feels safe, and then it can actually, sit on eggs, get broody, sit on eggs, and there you have some chicks. Your system will multiply gradually. And then the other important thing, you need to have a good balance. Like you need to have a good ratio for your rooster and your hens. So for one rooster, I like to keep 10 hens. It's a good balance. It will do its job naturally. Nature will take its course, and then yeah, it will be well managed. And then the feed that I give my chickens. So I usually crush some maize and then mix it with pearl millet and a bit of some sunflower. And then there is the fodder system that I mentioned earlier. So fodder, how you actually create a fodder system. For me, what I did, I had to make a fodder box on the ground, and then you just put some seeds on the ground. You don't actually need to dig. You just put them on the ground there, and then your job is to water there at least twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. If you can water it 3 times a day, the better. But twice a day is fine if you may be busy with other things during the day. So after about a week and a half, those seeds are going to sprout. And then at that stage, it's called fodder, and it's very nutritious for the chickens. So the seeds that I've used so far, it's sunflower and winter wheat. But sunflower is the best for me, and I think my chickens they really love it. So I plan to actually integrate these two systems into one, whereby I create a free ranging area for my chickens, because free ranging is also very beneficial for the chickens, because as they free range they're getting natural vitamin D from the sun, and the diet it's already diverse, because they'll scratch on the ground, they're going to find a lot of different things. So what I plan to do is to actually create a fodder system in the free ranging area that I would have created for my chickens. So when it's now ready, it's just a matter of actually opening that fodder box, and then your chickens can have access to it, and then they eat it naturally. Your chickens, they do more than just giving you eggs and meat. They help you to prepare your garden by actually, if you put them in the garden. I've done that before I did my spirals. I actually had to put my chickens in there, so they naturally fertilize your soil through their droppings that they leave there, and then they naturally till your land, your soil for you. And then now I'm going to get into liquid manure. So liquid manure, as I have said, I've been making it with chicken manure that I actually harvest from my chicken. So the preparation of liquid manure, you basically get a drum, and then you cut 2 holes on both sides where you can put a stick, where a stick can go through, and then you hang a bag of manure on that stick, and then you pour water in the tank up to about 3/4, and then the water needs to be in contact with the bag of manure. So what happens there, the nutrients from the bag of manure actually gets into the water. You leave it for about 16 days, and then your water will be now having the nutrients in the chicken manure bag. And then that manure, whatever is left inside the bag there, you don't throw it away. It's very rich. It has a lot of worms. You put it on your garden bed. So this is quite good because you're actually making a lot of manure just from one bag of manure, and then you're not throwing it away after you use it. You're actually using it to build more soil in your garden. So before you water your plants, you need to dilute this liquid manure because it's very strong. If you just pour it directly, it's going to kill your plants. So the ratio, a good ratio is 1 part of liquid manure to 4 parts of water. That's a good dilution ratio there. And then when you're now watering your plants, it's 1 cup per plant. That was it about my projects, what I've been doing. I feel so excited with this project, and I anticipate a 2 to 3 year plan. I think it would fit best the scope that I'm considering, given everything that I intend to do here. From my designs, there's a lot of things that I need to do, and it's going to need a lot of time and finances. But here, the trick to actually building your system is to keep observing as you proceed through, because it's much better to respond as the site changes than to be stuck on the plan and miss an opportunity to actually improve your design. So observation is key for everything that you do when you're actually creating your natural system. For the chickens, I've had to adjust a lot based on the actual situation. It's also an opportunity to learn more about what works best in a certain kind of a situation. So this is it. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope that you learned a lot.